Hello there, and welcome to the first ever PvP Academy. There's a cat. So I would say I'm a pretty competent Sea of Thieves PvP player. However, my problem is Twitch and YouTube are saturated with good PvP players. So I thought I need to come up with something original to put myself out there. So how am I going to do that? Well, I'm going to steal someone else's idea, obviously. So what is the PvP Academy? So this idea I've basically taken from my days of playing CSGO, where I used to watch a channel called The War Owl. Now the War Owl would take people's submissions of videos and plays and break them down and explain what they're doing right and what they're doing wrong. So I thought this would be a great idea to bring into the Sea of Thieves community, because it's not really something anyone else does, and being someone that only does the PvP side of Sea of Thieves, I thought I'd be a good person to break this down. Now I am by no means the best PvP player out there, not by a long shot. One thing you learn from playing Sea of Thieves is there's always someone better than you. Not only that, but skill breeds confidence, which then eventually leads to overconfidence, which is something I'm actually quite guilty of. So what are we actually going to be doing in this series? So what we're going to be doing is taking videos from Twitch and YouTube and breaking them down, having a look at the fights and seeing what went right and what went wrong. My eventual goal is to be taking submissions from other people, so if you want me to break down your videos or your plays, send me a link on either Twitch, Twitter or YouTube, and I'll take a look at your video and see if it's usable. Now obviously for the first ever video, I don't have any submissions because this is the very first ever video of it. So what are we going to use? So I took a look through YouTube to find some videos to use, but the problem I ran into is that no one uploads videos of themselves losing. So it took me a while, but eventually when I typed in the phrase Sea of Thieves Toxic into YouTube, I eventually found quite a lot of videos. And the one I've got here is quite old. It's actually over a year old. However, within this video, it kind of gives a good example of what I want to do with this series. So I thought it'd be a good idea to use this one as the very first video to give you guys an idea of what this series is going to be. So without any further rambling, let's dive into the video. Okay, so here we are in our first video. And as you can see, the video is titled Sea of Thieves Toxic Players Come At Us for Round 2. I never watched round 1, so I don't really know what makes these people toxic, because I don't really see it in this video. I have kind of flicked through it a little bit just to see if it had the quality of what I wanted for this video, and it does tend to have that, but I don't actually know what he means by toxic, other than the fact that they're PvPers. Okay, so the scenario for this video is we're on a brig, and we have a sloop which is an ally, and we're being attacked by a Reaper galleon. Now the brig isn't moving, it's not going anywhere. The sloop is starting to move to go around the other side of the galleon, and the galleon is moving in to start the fight. So let's play it and see where we go from here.
Yeah,
Just
had it
Jake
under
came back
control.
to our ship.
Okay, so the first thing we can see them doing is they've swiveled the brig around to get their broadside onto the galleon, which is the smart thing to do. If you're stationary and you don't want to move, swiveling your boat with the anchor raised and getting a broadside on the enemy ship is exactly what to do, because it means the enemy then needs to manoeuvre around you. So right now, I agree with what they're doing right now, it's quite a smart move. Okay, so from the way the guy keeps loading the cannon, and I don't understand what he's trying to do, it makes me realise he's not that confident with it. He doesn't really know what he's trying to do. He's not made his mind up in his head what he wants to do, so he's fiddling around a little bit, which to me kind of explains what happens later on in the video, but we'll get to that further down the line. Okay, so the galleons just hit them with an anchor ball, so now they can't move at this point in time, and the galleon is now going to cut across their nose. This is actually a really bad position for the brig to be in, because they can't return fire, and so they can't put any pressure onto the galleon. So at this point, this guy's continued to load his cannons up, even though he's anchored with his nose facing the enemy ship. Loading cannons when you're not about to use them is really a bad idea for several reasons, but in this scenario, he's loading cannons and can't use them, so there's no point in doing it. The time you're taking to do that, you could be doing something else. You're getting hit, so you could be repairing and bucketing. Or you could be, because he is a sword pistol user, I believe, from later on in the video, I think you see sword pistol, or sword blunder. He could have sword dashed over to that galleon and put some pressure on them and got them off their cannons. Okay, so now he's moved down to start bucketing and repairing. Now, what the galleon could have done, from their perspective, was once they hit that anchor shot and knew that the brig wasn't going to move, they could have instantly anchored themselves straight off of their nose at a very close range and just kept constant pressure on the brig. It would have put them at risk from the sloop a little bit. However, the sloop's moved off, so it's not a massive threat right now. They could have put that pressure on the brig, sunk the brig very quickly, and then turned it into a 1v1 fight with the sloop. Again, it seems like this guy doesn't really know what to do in this scenario. He keeps changing his mind, going from cannons to land below deck. Loaded the cannon up and hasn't fired a shot, even though the galleon's about to be in his range. He then moves off of it when he had the optimal chance to maybe put some pressure on the galleon. If you're going to do something like that, if you're going to load the cannon up, at least wait for the shot. It could get them off that cannon. If you're going to load the cannon up, at least take the shot for that fraction of a second worth of time for the galleon to move into your range. It might get them off their cannons, put a bit of pressure on them, get it off of you. You've kind of wasted a little bit of time there by loading the cannon and then doing nothing with it.
How are we doing?
I got it.
Okay, so we now see they started communicating, which they weren't doing before. It comes down to experience with a crew and also comfort within your crew, knowing your crew well enough to be able to talk to each other in certain ways. However, it seems a bit late in the game to now start communicating. Okay, so now we have someone repairing, someone bucketing, and someone raising the anchor. That's kind of the three optimal things to do at this point. The bucketing actually, right this moment in time, isn't needed. He could be putting cannon shots on the galleon and getting a bit of pressure on them, because the repair is going to deal with the water coming on. Once the person heals up the ship, he can then start bucketing. So maybe use the cannons, but right now there's not too much wrong.
I just got our anchor. I'm just going to face us towards them, just so they're in the very front.
Okay, so they've now got their anchor up and they're swiveling. So he had a shot on, but he's now going to lose it because they're turned to the right a little bit.
You hear me?
The guy on the wheel looks like he's trying to center it.
Alright, I'll start bailing crazy. Yeah, repair everything except for the very front.
Okay, so they have their anchor up, but they're still sat still. They've got someone bucketing, someone repairing, which they kind of need right now because they've got a lot of damage. However, the third person, I would be dropping those sails and moving my ship. And I'll show you where and why. Okay, let me just back it up a little bit. Okay, so from this position, we've got a pretty good glimpse of what's going on. The brig sat still, has now got its anchor up, its nose facing towards the galleon. Now the galleon is facing to their right. If this was me in this position, I would have dropped my sails and moved off to the left. Number one, it gets me out of that cannon shot and gives my guys a bit of a break from repairing, or gives them a chance to repair a little bit better. And number two, I can then get backside shots onto the galleon where the galleon can't get me. Now the galleon I don't think is anchored, so they probably will swivel on the spot. However, its turning circle is quite slow, so you can get a bit of a respite. Okay, I think this is a great example of being a pirate legend really means nothing. So the guy that we are spectating from, the person you've got the point of view of, he's a pirate legend, as is the other person. This one in front of us isn't, but you can see by the purple outfit, they're pirate legend. And the guy just stood there not really knowing what to do again. It really does kind of show that being a pirate legend doesn't mean you're good at the game.
No, we're fine. For the most part. So,
Okay, so now they're getting boarded. They've just sat and bucketed for a while, but they've not moved, so the pressure's going to continue coming at them. So this bucketing's going to be a waste of time unless you get out of the cannon range.
waste of time.
Oh, I just died. I got hit by a cannonball.
He's dead.
Okay, so from the Galleon's perspective, they've sent over a boarder, which is a good idea. Keep the other team off of the repairs and stop them able to move. If it was me, I would have went for the anchor first when I'm boarding, just so they definitely can't move, and we've got a great broadside on them for as long as we want it. But the mistake the Galleon make here is the person who boarded dies, and if it was me and my crew, if I'm boarding and I die, I'm calling out to my teammates that I'm dead, and we're sending a second person over instantly.
Just keep failing.
Okay, so they're still stuck in this loop of bucketing. Not moving out of the way of the cannons at all. I can't really work out why either, to be honest. There's not really a great reason for it. They really are getting decimated at this point. The problem as well that they have is because of the way they're sitting, they have to keep repairing and they have to keep bucketing. And they're not able to get anyone off of their ship onto the Galleon to put some pressure on them and get them off the cannons.
The guy keeps trying to talk to me on the ferry.
Don't repair the front. Don't do that.
Okay, so his teammate tells him not to repair the front, which kind of makes sense in a way. They might be short on planks, and sitting the way they're sitting, they're going to keep getting hit on the nose. So repairing that's going to last 5 seconds, and it's going to get hit again. So it is kind of pointless. You may as well just bucketing. Again, I can't understand why they're not moving the boat.
Yeah, those are just gonna keep getting knocked out. They've already went through like.
But there's a guy on our ship again. Yeah, he just killed me again. It's the same cyanide Reaper guys.
You can tell from the way they're sword fighting, neither team's very experienced.
He's on our ship again.
We're just waiting for them to go through all their cannonballs.
Okay, so we just said they're going to wait for them to go through all their cannonballs. Problem with that is you don't know how many they've got, you don't know how many they've stocked up on. I know this is on the description saying it's part 2, so maybe they'd sunk the Galleon before, so the Galleon's a fresh spawn, I don't know. But it's not really something I would want to risk, just let them, they could have a full stack of cannons, they could have been looting up all day, you don't really know what they've got, they could have picked up a cannonball chest from somewhere. How do you know you've got enough planks to outlast the barrage?
Alright, that sloop's running a distraction. I'm gonna go for a ram. We might lose the ship. Just board him though.
Okay, so the guy who seems to be sort of the team leader, the captain, has decided that the sloop's gave enough of a distraction for him to now lower sails and go and ram the Galleon. He said they might lose the ship and he's okay with it, but it's kind of unnecessary. They didn't have to do that. Even at this point, they could still move off and get a good shot from behind on the Galleon without having to sacrifice the boat.
Not anymore.
Okay, so they've now made the ram. The guy in charge, or the captain guy, team leader, already said they might lose the boat, so they kind of had already accepted that fate. what they should have done was, if they were going to do that and just go for this sort of last hurrah fight, is all board straight away, ram and board. By bucketing here, you're kind of wasting your own time. I don't understand, because this guy buckets for a while, why the galleon's got 4 people on it. Why not send one onto that brig that's now physically stuck to your boat and kill the people repairing the brig? Okay, so they had sent one person over from the brig onto the galleon, but he died pretty quickly. So now your broadside stuck to the side of the galleon, and I think the galleon probably should send someone over right about now. Okay, so you've been knocked off. Boat's going to go. You're not saving that. Yeah, you're just stalling for time now. You're never going to actually save it. You would be as well going on board in the galleon and try to take the fight to them. Because remember, they've got a sloop around as an ally. Okay, so they actually got most of the water out. I wasn't expecting that, and now he's been knocked off again. They're just sitting broadside, so it's going to keep happening. And it's just filling back up again straight away. It's got so many holes. It's just a waste of time, guys. Someone repair. If you're going to repair it, repair it. But there's no point in continuing to bucket. Absolutely none. The thing is that all they're doing is bucketing, so there's nothing changing in this scenario, so the inevitable thing is the enemy are eventually going to kill you. That's the only outcome. If you continue to do that and don't change what you're doing, the only outcome is you're going to eventually be killed and the boat's going to sink.
Not the ship with cannonballs.
No, not good.
He just threw a bucket back into his own boat. That's it, it's gone, it's going, it's going. No, 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 he still caught it. Okay, now they've boarded. Now that other team's boarded.
Jumped off.
The other team don't seem that competent either, really. It seems like it's very evenly matched in terms of experience. There's not really one team that's better than the others. The galleon seems to be winning this purely out of positioning and better numbers.
Yep.
That's all it really takes, is someone doesn't have to win the fight on the ship. All you need to do is keep them off the repairs long enough for the boat to sink. And that's what Rex there's done. And that's it, pretty much over.
I'm not gonna leave it alone.
Okay, and then the galleon's just going to pick them off in the water. Okay, so that's kind of the end of the analysis for that one. It was definitely a winnable fight. There was not really any reason to sit still for as long as they did. They didn't have to even ram. They could have got out that scenario pretty quickly. And it was definitely winnable, especially with the fact they had an ally kicking around and being able to help them. It didn't need to go down that way, literally. However, there was a couple of positives. Like I said, at the start, when they positioned themselves broadside to the galleon, that was a smart thing to do and the right thing to do, especially since they didn't want to move. But from then on, it kind of went downhill. So anyway, guys, I hope that's gave you a bit of an insight in what not to do in a fight. Like I say, I want to continue this into a series, so if you have a video where you think, how the hell did we lose that fight, please send it over to me and I'll take a look. And if there's something I can sort of have a look at and say, yeah, you can change this, I'll make it into a video. It's something I want to keep going. I've spoken to some of my friends who are streamers and YouTubers to do the same, and they're going to be sending me some footage of theirs over the next couple of weeks. So yeah, I want to keep this series going. So if you have something, send it over to me on either Twitch, YouTube or Twitter, and I'll take a look. The links for them will all be down below. I do stream over on Twitch almost every day and usually always on Sea of Thieves. So if you want to go over there and give me a follow, it would be greatly appreciated. But anyway guys, that's it for today. See ya.